The Florida Senate votes 28-12 to ban children at drag shows. Today, the Florida Senate voted 28-12 for a bill that would allow the state to revoke the liquor licenses of restaurants and other entertainment venues that let children into drag shows. This is the next step that will now wait for the House conference to pass an already certain law to send to Governor Ron DeSantis. The House version has an amendment that would change the interpretation from just entertainment venues with liquor licenses to any public performance. Presumably, for example, this could include a prohibition, like the example of RuPaul's Drag Race queen, Shangela, performing at this week's Miami Beach Pride. Fortunately, those type of prohibitions, however, if passed, could not be enforced until later in the year. The constitutional arguments of the bill use language that defines drag performance as, quote, a prurient, shameful, or morbid interest, or violates what adults deem proper for children to see. The House bill is up for its final committee stop tomorrow before going to the full House. Critics say the language is so broad and vague that it could have a chilling effect on artistic freedom and what adults can see on Florida stages. Some Florida theater managers are also concerned that musicals like La Cage aux Folles or Kinky Boots could be targeted. Other opponents of the bill feel that it could also be applied to gay pride parades where people in drag often participate. First off, when the amendment was introduced, we did it as a breaking news story on Wednesday. It seems like a lifetime ago, but it was just Wednesday. And we reported this bill is insidious because they're using the Supreme Court definition of lewd and lascivious conduct, which is the prurient standard, and likely will stand up in a Supreme Court. They have cited in their wording a number of preemptive legal maneuvers to sustain First Amendment challenges, and even through using community standard of what adults in the community would define as offensive for children as a preemptive opportunity to say that that is more important than the First Amendment free speech issue, and also in the way they've written this law to say that you are not able to challenge it because they predefine artistic and scientific value that drag could never reach the standard of the legislative law. So it is a mess. It's going to get worse, and we're one step closer to seeing it pass. There's no question it's going to pass. It's just what its final version is going to be. But the supermajority, there's nothing anybody can do to stop this.
Well, I picked a hell of a day to quit Zoloft. You know, I was thinking you were talking about theater, right? But I'm thinking about, like, what if there's a movie version of Kinky Boots or a movie version of La Cage aux Folles, and a parent takes a child to a movie theater? Is this going to affect movies as well, or is it
and there
simply...
actually is a movie version of Kinky Boots.
Yeah.
I mean, the musical.
Yeah.
Kinky Boots, the musical. There's not a movie version of...
There is.
It's okay.
Well,
There is.
I think you have a point there, Mrs. Doubtfire.
But you're right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Have to really realize again, and I, continue to bring this up, that our children are most at risk from gun violence,
of course.
And not from drag queens.
Right.
Again, we had another mass shooting that occurred yesterday in Louisville, Kentucky. And our children are being terrorized by guns. They're not being terrorized by drag queens. And what the Florida legislature is doing is not protecting anyone's children or ourselves, but they're arming more people to have guns in the streets. So I continue to bring this up because I think it is the biggest thing that is facing our nation and affecting, there was a study out, I think it was yesterday, that life expectancy has shortened because of it's one in 25 children may not make it to age 40 based upon statistics around gun violence. So, again, it's over here. Let's create this distraction while we take money from the NRA and from gun rights activists to win elections and gerrymander districts so that we're not represented, which is the will of the people.
One final thought before we move on. Both of these breaking news that we do today. The intent of the law is not only distraction. The insidious nature of the law is to create a situation where we've written it into vagueness. And we don't have our overlord and master, who sits in the governor's mansion, will send the minions out to enforce and define as he sees fit. And that's the insidious nature of this law. It's, well, there's not clear rules. We give the example of movies. We give the example of pride parades. What happens? We give, and there's so many examples. And that's exactly the way they want it, because they don't want a clear definition. And Don't Say Gay proved it. Last spring, when it was passed, the initiation of teaching anything on sexual identity or sexuality for kindergartners, we said over and over again, that doesn't happen. It doesn't. But that's not what was at play. They wanted the law to be in place so they could begin to expand it. And that's exactly what we're watching right now. Very insidious. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.